Hello everybody, my name is Spoons Rattling, and we're doing the second part on my Risk of Rain 2 items tier list video. Of course, we ranked all of the common items last time, and now we're going to rank all of the uncommon items, including the ones from Survivors of the Void. Now, eventually I'll have to update this given the roadmap that Gearbox put out, so a lot of these items will get reworked. But we'll get there when we get there, won't we? For now, we're going to be ranking these on their current strength and seeing how where I would rank them. First up, we got ATG. I think ATG, absolutely, right at the top of A tier. I'm going to put right behind Paul's Goat Leg, mainly just because ATG is a little bit survivor dependent. It's good on just about everyone, but something like Dual Nail Gun multi, it's not quite as standout in my opinion. But in general, ATG is of course an absolute classic item. Great on people like Loader, Railgunner, Captain, really anyone that has a burst attack. Rebar, multi, because multi is the best. Next up we have Will-O-The-Wisp. Will-O-The-Wisp I'm going to put right next to Gasoline. Mainly because usually these items occupy the same space in my mind. They're extra horde clearing. They're good with. They're very good with. What's it called? I can't even think. Forgive me, please. And overall, are both very solid items. They are helpful again for mainly clearing hordes. And that's no different with Will-O-The-Wisp. You can create some crazy chains with this going off. If you kill a big horde of enemies, once you kill one, the rest just fall. It's really satisfying. Love to use it. Hopo Feather, right up here, right above Goat Leg. I'm going to put it above Goat Leg because it's a really unique item in that it gives you a second jump, and that jump is super useful to survive in this game. A lot of attacks tend to be grounded or close to the ground, so being able to jump over them and do it more efficiently is huge to survival. Invaluable against Mithrix, pretty useful, and also super useful in the mid phases of the Voidling, and especially for dealing with the False Sun, even though he's getting a rework. Hopos will be useful because that one's very much like a up-front fight, you know. Next up, Ukulele. I'm going to put Ukulele right next to ATG, mainly because, in my mind, again, these items are very similar, but they just fulfill the same role but a little differently. ATG helps you with your single target on a chance. Ukulele helps you with your horde on a chance. Both are fantastic items. I love having them in any run. Doesn't matter who I'm playing. Getting a ukulele is just super useful, especially if you're playing a burst survivor. It can just be invaluable to hit a crazy ukulele chain to then just help clear out the hordes after you punch something real hard. Next up, Leeching Seed. Now, unfortunately, Leeching Seed is pretty bad. It's not like an active detriment, so it's not going in F tier, but I am going to put it like right next to Monster Tooth just because it's such a do-nothing item. Especially with Harvester's Scythe existing in the game, there's very little reason to use Leeching Seed, even if getting it can give you a lot of regen with someone like Void Fiend or Multi with Nail Guns. Again, it's just completely outclassed by Harvester's Scythe, which gives you a second effect as well as more healing than the Leeching Seed. Next up, Predatory Instincts. I love Predatory Instincts. I'm probably going to put it right around sort of like the Chronic Expansion sort of area. It's very satisfying to use, and crit chance is just... If an item has crit chance, chances are it's very good. And I don't think that's any different for our friend Predatory Instincts. Also, it looks funny, so that's a benefit. Red Whip. This is an item that I used to hate, but I have grown to love Red Whip. I'm not going to put it all the way up in A tier, but I'm going to put it like right next to Soda, but I think it's better than Soda. Red Whip is just so useful as a big speed boost when you're looting, when you're escaping enemies. Red Whip is just really useful in general, and I love to have one whenever I'm doing a run, especially if I'm looping. Red Whip is so important to get those stages done as fast as possible, and Red Whip overall, just fantastic movement item. Old War Stealth Kit is just an absolute do-nothing item. It's like, I guess it's a good way to know that you're probably about to die, but yeah, it's just an item that really doesn't do anything. I'm going to put it like right around here, the sort of items that are okay but really don't do much for you or scale poorly into the late game. Harvester Scythe, I'm going to put this right below these guys. Gives you 5% crit chance, and crits heal you for flat, what is it, 8, and it heals you for 4, and then each stack gives you an extra 4, and the first one counts, so it gives you 8 health on a crit. I think that's how Harvester Scythe work. I might be getting that math mixed up a little bit. But Harvester Scythe, really love having a Harvester Scythe, especially on characters that want crit, which is all of them. It's just super useful. It helps you stay in the fight longer, and that's the most important thing, is sustaining your longevity in a fight. Of course, it does lose value on people like Railgunner or not what, Loader? Is that her name? Yeah, Loader. Why am I forgetting? Why does that not sound right? You know, big punch. I'm gonna look this up on my other monitor, but I'm pretty sure it's Loader. Yeah, Loader. Yeah, I'm not sure why I was freaking out there for a minute. I quite like Harvester Scythe, though, even though it isn't necessarily the best on those characters. I tend to prefer more sustained survivors anyways, so Harvester Scythe works great. Fuel Cell, absolutely, definitely going right up here. Probably put it just below, like, the main damage item. Yeah, I'll put it, like, right next to Predatory Instincts. It's a rare day where I don't want a Fuel Cell unless I'm doing something like Crowdfunder, which is, of course, a very fun equipment that doesn't have a cooldown. But this is so instrumental in a lot of builds, whether it be Royal Capacitor spam, Forgive Me Please, is even something like Vase or Wings. It can be super useful, or Eccentric Vase and Milky Chrysalis are super useful just to help you skip pillars faster, get around the map faster, get to the soups faster on the moon. Overall, super fantastic. There's not much to say about it. Infusion, I'm going to put it probably right at the top of C tier. Like, Infusion's fine. It's just kind of, a little bit of extra health. On some survivors, it doesn't really matter. On some, it's more impactful. It doesn't really help that much with overall survivability. It doesn't scale very well into the late game, but I never turned down an Infusion, so. Bandolier, do nothing item. It has some uses on, like, Loader, but her cooldowns are so short anyways, it doesn't really matter. Bandolier's just green scrap in my opinion. It really doesn't do much, and I honestly wish it got some sort of rework. Bandolier just, I don't think is very good. Berserker Pauldron is pretty solid in my opinion. I'm going to put Berserker Pauldron probably like at the bottom of B tier. Berserker Pauldron, I think, is a solid item. It's really good with Forgive Me Please, because it's effectively then just a permanent speed and attack speed bonus, and when it goes off, you feel it. It really is a big boost. And overall, I quite like it. I think it's useful, scales well into the end game, especially when you're looping and there's always 40 enemies on stage. You'll have, almost endless kills to keep this thing going. And overall, I quite like Berserker Pauldron. Rose Shield it's alright. I'm going to put it probably, I'll put it like around Berserker Pauldron. They're fairly useful, just not the most impactful. I quite like stacking Rose Pauldrons, or Rose Shields if I can, just to get more armor. It's really useful to stop you from getting sniped. It helps a little bit when you're getting surprise attacked, especially against things like golem beams. Like if they lock onto you in an awkward way, and then by the time you realize it's too late, having that extra armor can be impactful to make sure you don't die. And in general, it's just a useful survivability item that never is a detriment to have. The two bands, Ronald and Jaro's band, are fantastic items. I'm gonna put them in S tier. These are our next S tiers. Obviously, they are just huge. Both of them are so good. They weirdly complement each other rather well. And while there are some survivors that can struggle to activate them, most of them can find a way to do it. And when you do, it can be impactful. Obviously, slightly better on burst survivors, just given how it works. But I mean, you never want to leave home without a band. And any survivor, it's super useful extra damage. They can really make or break runs at times. Having that extra damage can be so impactful. Love the bands, they're so good. Chronobauble is fairly mediocre in my opinion. I'm going to put this just above Infusion. Chronobauble, though, I think is at the same time like mediocre, but its job is always useful, and weirdly I think it's better as time goes on, as you're facing more elites, more flying enemies. Keeping them under control and corralled can be useful, and it is very good against Mithrix, just because Mithrix's main attribute is his speed. Remember what he said? Speed is war. You generally want to have some sort of way to interrupt his movements, because getting Mithrix jump scared is not exactly what you want, because one-shot protection will not save you from his hammer. So having a way to keep him a little slower, very useful. But it's just sort of an item that's the same power level pretty much always, though is useful to have at least one copy of. Wax Quail, this is going to be controversial. Easy S tier. I love Wax Quails. I don't. This is mainly a meme between me and my friend, but Wax Quails goated. In all seriousness, though, Wax Quails are super useful just to help with the dodging game. Fantastic on loader. I like to stack like 10 of these on loader just because of the insane acceleration that applies to you once you press space. So when you're charging that punch up, press space and then just let go, and you will be moving at faster than the speed of light. And it's really funny, and it sits on your head. Wax Quail's goated. Love Wax Quail. Rusty Guillotine, or Old Guillotine, I think it is Old Guillotine, is a solid enough item. It sort of falls into this tier where Pauldron, Shield, and, well, now Guillotine are, where they're useful to have, but they generally aren't the most impactful. Can really come in clutch against, like, elite bosses, especially things like elite Wandering Vagrants if they're overloading, if they're frost. They are so bulky, it can feel like it takes 15 minutes to kill one of those bosses, and being able to kill them at 15% HP is a small but very meaningful difference. Guillotine is solid though, really good on Railgunner too, just to help with the one-shot game. Like Guillotine plus Crowbar with Railgunner is basically a one-hit on elites at all times. Warhorn, I quite like Warhorn. I'm gonna put it like probably at the top tier of B tier. Warhorn is very solid with a lot of equipment spam builds, whether that be Spinal Tonic or Forgive Me Please or Royal Capacitor or Gorag's Opus, Monkey Fruit, or not Monkey Fruit. What is it called? Strange Fruit. I always call it the Monkey Fruit. What is it? The one that heals you for 50%. If you want to go for like the immortality build, if you will. Warhorn is just always useful. It gives you a big attack speed bonus, which is good. Leptons. Unfortunately, Leptons is not Sleptons. I think I have a higher opinion of Leptons than most people do, mainly because it's useful if you get it stage 1 and you do void fields. It can make or break your void fields run depending on what enemies you get. If it's an easy run, doesn't matter, it's free green scrap. If it's a tough run, having those heals can be super useful. Overall, though, it's a do-nothing item, really. I'm going to put it above Bandolier, because I like it more than... And I'm going to put it above Sticky Bomb. Next up, Razor Wire. I know Razor Wire has a use in... not Spinal Tonic, because that's the one that makes you super strong. What's it called? Hellfire Tincture. This has a use with Hellfire Tincture and Planula, if I'm not mistaken, is how you do that. Where you just make like an infinite feedback loop of healing yourself and making damage AoE. But overall, I don't think Razor Wire is particularly useful. I guess it can be good against things like Wisps if they get really close to you, but I mean that's kind of a wishful thinking. Gore's Tome is, it's a fine item. I'll put it like up here where it's just kind of whatever. It's really only useful for like the first 4 stages. And especially not after looping, because once you loop, you're getting, you'll look up at your money 3 seconds into a stage and it'll have like $15,000. So yeah, not great. Squid Polyp is good. I actually think Squid Polyp is a slept-on item. I'm going to put this in A tier. Now, this may seem insane. You may think, well, what? How could this be an A tier? Remote Caffeinator. Get a few Squid Polyps and Remote Caffeinator. Easiest Mithrix boss fight in the game. It is insane how easy it is to just cheese Mithrix with Squid Polyp. And it's funny because you get a bunch of little squid guys. Like, get some of those Gestures of the Drowned, and you will be laughing all the way to the bank. It is so fun. Squid Polyp is just weirdly powerful. It really is. For a long time, I didn't like it. Deathmark, I'm going to put this alongside Warhorn. With the right situations, really useful. I'm actually going to pump Red Whip up above these guys, just because Red Whip is always useful. And I'm actually going to put him with Backup Mag as well, because Backup Mag is very Survivor dependent. Deathmark, very solid with people like, False Sun. He can apply debuff, can he? Chef appreciates it. Oh god, who am I thinking of? Wow, why can't I think? There's someone I'm thinking of that I can't remember the name of. I suppose Artificer can apply some debuffs. Bandit can apply some debuffs. So that gets you most of the way there. And then, once you get a death mark off, it can snowball really quickly into death. So that's all the base game greens. We need to move on to the DLC greens, which I'm not particularly high on. Hunter's Harpoon, awful. It's alright in late game Forgive Me Please, because you'll have enough gestures where you're always throwing out, what is it called? The little dolls, so you'll always be getting the speed boost, but most of the time just uncontrollable nightmare. Shurikens, I hate shurikens. I hate shurikens so much. Even if I'm playing someone like Loader, who has no ranged attacks, pretty much, I don't want shurikens. I hate shurikens. Super inaccurate. They can proc bans, so I'll put them at the bottom of D tier, but I hate shurikens so much. Shipping request form is alright. I'm going to put it around here. It can be really funny. If you get like 6 of these on a looping run, you'll start snowballing reds really fast, which is really fun. But it's just free items, and free items are good. Regen Scrap, absolutely an A tier item. Probably at the bottom of A tier though. It's just really useful and can, again, snowball into free reds pretty quickly once you start going to Mithrix, False Sun, any place where you can exchange greens for reds. Regen Scrap is useful. Then finally, we have Ignition Tank. I'm quite high on Ignition Tank. I'm going to put it here. Really good on Chef. Also, anyone that likes to use gasoline. This is almost essential for that to work late game. Good on if you want to use Flamethrower on Artificer. This is absolutely essential to making that work. And in general, I think it's a quite solid item. I love Ignition Tank. And then we're on to Survivors of the Storm. I'm mixing the names up. Seekers of the Storm. Now, a lot of these are getting a rework. In fact, all of them except Sailstar are. And I think that's not without reason. First up, we have Chance Doll. And this is a do-nothing item. I still like it more than Shurikens. It's a do-nothing item that really doesn't help your run particularly. Prayer Beads is just green scrap. I'm going to put it in the same position. I just hate Shurikens. Luminous Charge. I actually don't mind Luminous Charge. I'm going to put it at lower upper C tier, you know what I'm saying? Mid C tier, I suppose. Upper mid C tier. It's quite good on certain survivors, and by certain I mean one survivor. It's really good on Railgunner, because you're constantly using your mouse 2 and then your mouse 1, so just free extra damage. Honestly, I wouldn't mind Luminous Charge staying the way it is, but maybe making it a bit more Survivor universal would be good. Sailstar, this is an easy S tier item. It's just free items. If you get this stage 1, you're looking at a minimum 4 extra items, which can be huge. Even more if you go to Void Fields. Sailstar's fantastic. There's not a person alive who doesn't love Sailstar. Next up, we have Unstable Transmitter. Now, I don't hate Unstable Transmitter, but it does commit one cardinal sin, and that is it can doom runs in Void Fields. Outside of that, I'm fine with it. I think it's a good get-out-of-jail-free card, so I'm going to put it above Stealth Kit. Because, if you're... Again, it's just a get-out-of-jail-free card. In Void Fields, absolute death sentence. Don't pick it up. Outside of that, I'm fine with it. I don't mind having one. It's kind of like a power elixir. I just like to keep it in my back pocket in case things go sideways. Very solid. And then we have Noxious Thorn, which is just another do-nothing item, really. Yeah, it's just a do-nothing item. I can apply some debuffs, but not in a very consistent way. So, you know, it's nothing. It's just green scrap, like a lot of these lower-tier greens are. And that's all the greens except for green scrap itself, which I'm actually going to put in, like, A tier, I think. Just because you can scrap these for reds. I think green scrap, if that isn't a thing, like if you're going to the Voidling, green scrap is probably the worst scrap in the game. Because green items you generally don't want to stack outside of the ones that are in the top tiers. And even then, it's not the most impactful to stack them. Yeah, it's just not that impactful outside of the fact that you get free reds with it. And I believe that's all the green or uncommon items, if you will, out of the way. So, what do we have left? We have red items, yellow items, lunar items, and equipment, and void items. Well, I will get around to those eventually, and I will see you all next time.